to tell us a bit as well about the Commission's plans on competitiveness, which of course is at the core of the new mandate. We've had the launch recently of the Competitive Compass. And you, of course, are Commissioner in charge of economy and productivity. And I'm also going to ask you a little bit about what you hope to emerge out of the meeting going on, I think, as we speak. I believe it's just sort of kicked off the emergency summit of EU leaders in Brussels. So thank you for joining us. Welcome to all of you in the room and to those of you online who are joining us as well. We've heard from numerous speakers, not least from the last panel as well, and I think in the next one to come, of course, that we are living in very difficult times, and a changing dynamics, a time of heated dialogue, particularly when it comes to Ukraine. You've been a passionate supporter of Ukraine since, well, probably longer, but certainly since 2014. How do you currently assess the situation? And where do you see the impact of both the US recent announcements to stop aid to Ukraine, but also where Europe can step in? Can we actually fill the gap, do you think?
Yes, thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for this invitation to EIB Forum. Well, as regards situation in Ukraine, obviously there is a lot of at stake as Ukraine is fighting for its own freedom against Russia's aggression, but also it's about entire European security architecture. We cannot feel that we will have security in Europe without lasting and just peace in Ukraine. So therefore, from the EU side, we obviously need to be ready to step in and do more for Ukraine support in absence or in case absence of certainty regarding the US support. Then if we look at the situation where we stand right now with Ukraine support, first, as regards financial support. Financial support, we are covered for this year. This is also IMF assessment that the financing need of Ukraine is met. This is thanks to the G7 loan initiative of $50 billion and the US contribution to this initiative, which was $20 billion, is already transferred to the World Bank. It was done already by Biden administration, so in a sense it's front-loaded. And it's also thanks to the EU's Ukraine facility of 50 billion euros. And all in all, we only from the EU, we will be providing financial support to Ukraine more than 30 billion euros this year from various funding tools. And also maybe to highlight, yes, obviously there will be gaps so we'll need to cover, but EU is already by far the largest financial supporter for Ukraine. So right now the EU's support to Ukraine since the beginning of the war amounts to some 135 billion euros and will go probably to some 140 billion euros by the end of the month. And substantial part of this, over some 73 billion euros or more, are actually grants. So
what you're saying is that in terms of financing for the day-to-day continuation, the resilience of the economy, we're going to be okay for the rest of the year. Part of that obviously is the Ukraine facility. You mentioned that. Actually, we signed an agreement, the EIB, with the Commission on that as well, didn't we? Earlier today.
Indeed. So on financing situation, indeed, one can say that the financing need is covered, and we continue providing our support. And indeed, just today we signed the guarantee agreement, European Commission with European Investment Bank, with close to 2 billion euros, also to provide support through the EIB in a connection with Ukraine facility. And there, I would like to thank the EIB's strong engagement in Ukraine support. Actually, EIB was international financial institution or European financial institution which was very fast to react at the very beginning of Russia's aggression, which was in February 2022, and already in March, EIB has provided 668 million euros in support, and by now it's 2.6 billion euros which had been provided, and we continue this engagement. But where obviously the issues are right now is regarding the military support and military capacity gaps which the removal of US support may create, and that's where we need to step in now urgently and consistently.
And that is partly what's on the leaders' table today. What do you hope in terms of specifically, we'll come back more broadly to the issue of defense and security, what do we want to see coming out of that meeting in Brussels going on now for Ukraine?
Well, as you know, the main topic is how to strengthen European security and defense industry and defense capabilities. Because also with President Trump's latest announcements and obvious policy shifts, it's clear that we will have to do more for our own security. So we need to invest more in our defense. That's why European Commission was coming forward with this 800 billion euros financial package. Well, bulk of this is actually providing EU member states with more fiscal flexibility to increase their defense expenditure, but also coming with 150 billion euros financing package to provide loans with the help of EU budget. And obviously the contributions of financial institutions, including EIB, will also be important. I know that EIB is already working in this direction to see how much it can strengthen its contribution to the EU security while ensuring its financing needs. And there we are welcoming very much the EIB's work in this direction. So what we expect from this summit, of course, would be important to have kind of an endorsement of those Commission proposals.
The Rearm Europe plan, right?
Indeed, indeed. So this 800 billion euros package, but then it's also important that member states are actually following up and acting on this. And another important element is how we reassure Ukraine right now and how we provide more support, military support right now.
And I mean, we've touched on security and defense, and I guess, you know, that is one of the key things that has, unfortunately, or maybe in your view, about time, changed with this shifting geopolitics that we've been talking about so much here at the EIB Group Forum. Where else do you think the current geopolitical situation is changing the priorities of the European Commission, but also our own institution, the EIB, and fellow EU institutions?
Well, when this new European Commission started its work, we set out two horizontal overarching priorities. One was security and defense, and if anything, latest events show that we need to step up our work on this. And another was competitiveness of European economy.
Yes.
Because also to project strengths in the world, we need a strong and competitive economy, and there are many things which we need to do for this, and many structural challenges which we are facing. So that's why one of the first initiatives of this European Commission was to come forward with competitiveness compass, outlining the directions of work, how we are going to strengthen the EU's competitiveness.
And I think that what seems very clear when you listen to leaders, when you listen to debates and panels like the ones going on here at the forum, that there is a sort of understanding, and maybe it's a new one. I think President Calvino put it this way, that the economic competitiveness of Europe and its security are mutually reinforcing. Is that a sort of new thinking, do you think, that's come into Europe?
First of all, indeed, they are mutually reinforcing, and this is something which is now a necessity. In Europe, we see that the economy, global economy, and is getting more fragmented. Global geopolitical landscape is getting more conflictual. So, therefore, we need both a strong economy, and there are many things we can address internally also to compensate probably for less favorable external environment which we are facing. And also to have a solid basis for strengthening our defense industry and defense capabilities.
When it comes to competitiveness, where do you see the key role for an institution like the EIB, but also fellow national promotional banks as well, other IFIs, and the private sector, of course?
Well, obviously, to strengthen EU's competitiveness, one obvious need is that we need to invest more. To close our innovation gap, to pursue our competitive decarbonization, also our economic security, and there obviously the role of European Investment Bank is very strong in providing this investment to the European economy. And just recently we came also with a initiative how we are strengthening the programs like Invest EU, providing or unlocking additional lending and investment capacity for those programs up to 50 billion euros. And the EIB is our major implementing partner for InvestEU. So when we discuss those additional 50 billion euros of investment capacity, some 87% of this is linked with the EIB. Mm-hmm. So the role of investment in investment which EIB can play is obviously very important, but also, we must acknowledge that the bulk of this investment will have to come from the private sector.
Yes. And
that's where our work on Savings and Investments Union come in, how to mobilize that private investment. And actually, in coming weeks, we'll be putting forward this new Commission proposal on Savings and Investment Union, so building on already existing work streams of the Banking Union and Capital Markets Union.
And of course, that was pretty much the finding of the recently published this week EIB Group Investment Report, which talked about investment, which you've mentioned, integration, which you're just talking about, and also there was a third lever as well, which is simplification. I mean, the Commission has been talking about simplification for a long time. Why is it going to be different this time? Why is it been put to such a sort of high level on the agenda?
Because that is one of the important factors affecting EU's competitiveness. There are many issues. We have relatively slow productivity growth already for decades, slower than in other major economies. We have aging population, we have relatively high energy prices, there are structural bottlenecks in our economy. But one element which also businesses are consistently highlighting is administrative burden. And actually, most of the SMEs are saying that they see administrative burden and administrative obstacles as a biggest challenge for doing business. So this is something we indeed need to address. So that's why we indeed have made simplification a priority for this Commission, and this is something which each member of the Commission will have to do in his or her area of responsibility, and my task is to coordinate this whole work, and that this is something which we'll be doing through the entire Commission mandate. And already last week we put forward the first legislative proposals, the first two omnibus proposals, the one on sustainability reporting and another actually on investment facilitation, where we were unlocking this InvestEU additional investment capacity and simplifying also administrative requirements for both implementing partners and final recipients. And by the way, saving also some estimated 350 million euros for the EIB in terms of this simplification.
I know we're running out of time. I want to ask one question before we go. If you could say, can you reassure people that in this drive for simplification, starting with the sustainability rules, that we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, as we put it, that we still do maintain the ambition on green, on climate action, which of course is one of the things the European Union is kind of known for worldwide these days.
Yeah, indeed. We had been very clear from the very beginning that simplification is not about deregulation. So we are not moving away from our targets as regards, for example, the European Green Deal and our climate neutrality target by 2050. We are rather looking how we can reach our policy goals in a less costly and more efficient manner. Because sometimes actually excessive bureaucracy, excessive red tape can even hamper us reaching the policy goals which we want to reach.
Absolutely. I'd like to thank you very much, Commissioner, for sharing your views. That was a very rich conversation, and we did it in exactly 15 minutes. Thank you so much, all of you.
Thank you, Shirin. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you very much. We'll see Shirin as well towards the end of the day. But now we're going to talk about how to partner for Ukraine's reconstruction. So welcoming back to the stage, Teresa Czerwinska, Vice President of the European Investment Bank.